Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I am your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C45 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm the Community Relations Manager at accessiBe, and I'm a passionate disability rights advocate and attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today, on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, we're joined by Jane Hatton, the director of Evenbreak. Welcome, Jane.
Hi, Josh. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And let's just dive right into it. And how about tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I was interested in diversity pretty much all my life, but didn't know much about disability particularly. And so that was interesting. So I was talking about diversity and inclusion in its broader sense, so race, gender, sexual orientation, all of that stuff, great stuff. And also disability, but not from a lived experience perspective. And I can remember when I talked to employers about employing diverse ranges of people, and particularly around disability, there would kind of be do we really want to employ disabled people? But a bit more positively, some employers were saying, we'd like to do this, but we don't really know how. And when I talked to disabled people, they were saying, well, we don't know which is which because every organisation says we are an equal opportunities employer, but actually we know that most aren't from our own experience. And I can remember thinking, that's really bad. Somebody should do something about that. And then just a kind of ironic quirk of fate, I became a disabled person. So, like many of us, disabled people become disabled later on in life, not necessarily born with our conditions. And at the age of 44, I suddenly became disabled myself, have a spinal condition, and it became a bit up close and personal. So I thought, well, actually, no one is doing anything about this. Perhaps I should. So my journey into disability advocacy, disability inclusion, was almost like some quirky, warped sense of humour joke because I became one of the people that I had been advocating for before and realised that actually lived experience is very different from non-lived experience.
I think that's such an important reason why people need to be behind kind of disability rights, different disability opportunities, because it truly is not a matter of if, but when. And it's
Absolutely.
going to either impact you as an individual, someone you love, someone you care about. So promoting different programs, initiatives that are supporting the disability community, it does a lot of good, and it pays it forward in many ways for people into the
Absolutely.
future.
Well, any of us
So
can become disabled at any one time, can't we? So we talk about disabled people and not yet disabled people, as you say. So yeah, it could affect anybody at any time. It's the one protected characteristic, really, that anybody can fall into at any point.
So tell us more with Evenbreak. What are some of the programs, initiatives that you're pushing forward, and what that's all about?
Yeah, for sure. So Evenbreak, I started 10 years ago. It's a social enterprise, so we're not for profit. And I was very keen for it to be led by lived experience. So we only employ disabled people at Evenbreak. And what we're really trying to do, we focus on employment as an issue. And what we're really trying to do is to break down the disability employment gap because there's a huge, all over the world, in every country, there's a huge gap between the proportion of non disabled people who are employed and the proportion of disabled people. And that shouldn't be the case. So, really, what we're trying to do is make the world of work as accessible to disabled people as it is to not yet disabled people. And we kind of do that in three ways. The core of what we do is a job board. So the job board is where disabled people who are looking for new or better work can go to find work, and where those employers who are enlightened enough to see us as a source of talent rather than as a source of problems can come and find that talent. And so they can find each other. And so our candidates say, we can see that if an organisation has paid to advertise on a job board that's just for people like us, they're serious about this. It's not just a byline that doesn't mean anything. And then over the years, it became apparent that, employers were saying to us, look, this is great and we're getting talented disabled candidates, but we're not sure if we're getting everything else right. Maybe our recruitment processes aren't as accessible as they should be, or maybe our employment practices, or maybe, our hiring managers. It's not that they want to discriminate, it's that they're frightened of getting things wrong and they're a bit nervous around what words to use and how to offer appropriate support. And so we started to offer support to employers to help them become more inclusive and accessible, because actually that's where the barriers are. And then much more recently, we've put the final bit in the jigsaw piece, if you like. So candidates were coming to us and saying, the career support that's available isn't always suitable for disabled candidates. So it might be that candidates aren't eligible because they're in the wrong postcode area, or they have the wrong disability, or they're too disabled or whatever, or that the support just isn't accessible or relevant to them. So we've now started up a career support service for disabled people who are looking for new or better work. And so that's kind of, we have the employers becoming more inclusive and accessible and understanding the benefits of employing disabled people. We're supporting disabled candidates to navigate around the barriers that they might face, and then the two of them can find each other on the job board. So hopefully we've kind of closed that circle, if that makes any sense.
No, that's awesome. Are you you guys, you said around the world, but are you guys focused mostly in the UK, or your services kind of open to all that need help?
Yeah, it's open to all. So, bizarrely, we all at the moment work in the UK, although that will change. We're going to be starting to employ people from other countries. But of course, the job board is online, so it's accessible by people wherever they are in the world. And there aren't many organisations like Evenbreak around. So if you're in Singapore or America or Australia or China and you Google jobs for disabled people, Evenbreak comes up. And so we were getting candidates coming to us and saying, "Can we come and get a job in the UK because the country I'm in won't employ disabled people?" And my view is, yeah, you're very welcome to come here, but you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to relocate in order to get a job, because that's a kind of human right. And so we said to some of our employers, can we start advertising your jobs internationally, the jobs that you have in other countries, just to see what happens? And we had a really good response. So now with the job board, I should say around half of the jobs are in the UK, but the other half are across, 70
That
or
is
80 different
incredible.
countries. So it's happened by accident, really, but it's a happy accident.
No, that's it's I love how you're approaching it, because it's so much with the employment journey of workers with disabilities. It's not like you flip a switch and automatically you're employed. It needs to be kind of customized, but and in so many ways there needs to be confidence on both sides, not just with the candidate with a disability, but also the employer that's looking for that talent, and
Yeah,
being able to give each of them a few tools, tips, guides. It makes that process so much easier. And then as you do it more, especially from the business side, there's so much when it comes to I love disability employment. I'm so passionate about it, and I advocate for it day in and day out. There needs to be more done within inclusive hiring, inclusive recruitment, inclusive hiring, and inclusive retainment. So those three different pieces, if you can do that well, you've got like a recipe for success. And it's,
absolutely.
so
Yeah, and I think the thing is that what we found is that if you do something to increase accessibility for disabled people in the workplace, it actually opens it up to other groups as well. So
yeah,
for me, accessibility inclusion is just really good practice. And although sometimes it might start off through a disability lens, actually it's about inclusion for everyone. So if you make your recruitment processes more accessible and inclusive for disabled candidates, they become more accessible and inclusive for every candidate. And it means that employers are always going to get the best person for the job, which is actually what they want.
and that's brilliantly said, because it's so true, and it happens in everyday life. Like the Americans with Disabilities Act in the U.S. kind of transformed the landscape of really kind of navigating cities and landscapes and transportation. Like even in the D.C. area where I live, we have a metro system, trains that are underground, and so much of it has these incredible elevators that allow people to get from different platforms and up to the top, to the street level. And yes, people with disabilities use them a lot, but like moms and dads with babies and baby carriers and strollers, like they're use it more than anybody. And it's just one of those things. It's like, being able to create a system that makes an easier path forward, an
Absolutely.
easier
Or if you're carrying heavy luggage or you're pulling, luggage on a it just makes it better for everybody, even though it was designed originally for one, and I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's just good practice. It's about universal design and making sure that everything we design, whether it's a policy or a building or, whatever it is, right from the start, we consider accessibility so that it's built in from the start rather than kind of retrofitted afterwards.
yeah, no, inclusion in all aspects of hiring. I think you said it great. You're gonna get the better talent. You're gonna be able to so when you don't have inclusive hiring, I feel like a lot of people fall through the cracks, and
Yeah.
their resumes, their ability to actually get to an interview or be interviewed, they just get thrown to the side and they're lost.
And
And
that's
it,
bad for them, but it's also bad for the business because they're missing out on that talent.
I agree with you. And that's the biggest part of building a company. You want to have a diverse group of employees because it brings better conversations. It brings more empowerment within the business and the coworkers. And I love being able to bring my unique skills and talents to any business, and it's always fun to be there because so many of the workers that might not have a disability are just kind of their eyes and they're just open to a whole new experience that they've never had before, and it not only changes the company but it changes them as well, which I love.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
and I mean, disability is a natural part of life, isn't it? It's not something that should be hidden away or segregated or, you know, disability is a normal part of life. It's how, what we do, and that's how it should be seen. So disabled people should be wherever non-disabled people are, whether that's in education, whether it's in the media, whether it's in business. We should have a diverse range of people everywhere. Not just around disability, around because we know disability doesn't discriminate. So you can be, black and disabled, or gay and disabled, or female and disabled, and actually inclusion is about not putting people into boxes. It's about making that everything is people shaped because none of us are box shaped, and
uh,
that applies whether it's a recruitment process or a train station or whatever it is.
breaking down barriers,
Yes,
tearing
absolutely.
down that box. I love it. So tell us of an accomplishment that you're most proud of with Even Break.
Yeah, God, there are so many. It's really hard to describe, isn't it? But I think for me, one of the things that I think keeps all of us going is any success that we make. So that might be a disabled person who's not worked for a long time, um, thought they might never work again, giving up almost on trying to get a job, and then suddenly their talents are recognised and they get a job, and that's life changing. And not just in terms of I now have a salary. It's around I've got a contribution. I've got a purpose. There's a reason for me to be here. I'm needed. And that's always great. And, we get people saying to us, I really had given up. I didn't think I would ever, or people who buy into the whole disability narrative about disabled people not being as good as non-disabled people and actually starting to believe it for themselves and then actually realizing, oh no, I am worth more than I thought I was, and I can do more than I thought I could, and that's always great. But I think, and that's an obvious one when we get someone say to us, I've got this great job and I'm thriving and it's great. But it's also gratifying when we work with an employer and the employer changes things. So they might change their recruitment process. And then you think, actually, this isn't just about one person. This is about, loads of people. And the more employers we can encourage to make their recruitment processes more accessible, the more disabled people will benefit and the more businesses will benefit. So I think some of the achievements are when, a large organization adopts a policy that we've perhaps recommended or suggested, and we know that that then opens up the field for so many more people, so much more talent than ever it did before. And it's kind of happens on a daily basis, and I love my job. It's just great. And actually, also internally, we only employ disabled people within Evenbreak. And the way it seems to work, and it's more by accident than design, is that somebody will join us for a particular job that we've advertised and they've applied for. And then we discover that they've got all sorts of talents that we didn't know they'd got. And then the job morphs so that the job goes around them. I didn't know you could do that. Well, why don't we do that? That would be really good. And so it's actually learning to see people, come into a role, a bit nervous, might be a while before since they've worked last time, or they're not sure what this employer is going to be like because they've had problems before. And then that kind of sudden, oh, you really are prepared to make adjustments and you do really value me. And oh, I can use my strengths here. And it's lovely to see people blossom and, and grow into their skills and their strengths, which they always had, but perhaps had thought they might not use or they might not be valued or whatever it is. So, yeah, there are achievements all the time.
The blossoming. So that's like one of my favorite things about doing job mentoring. Like I do a lot of one-on-one job mentoring with families. And when, you're able to be a part of their pathways to employment and they get hired, and then all of a sudden their confidence, their
Yeah,
purpose, their quality of life just transforms with that employment. And it's amazing to be on that journey with them and watch their
absolutely.
lives, just continue to improve and improve. And it's
And
just
those ripples go out far further, don't they? Because that one person then now feels empowered and able to contribute. Everybody within that workplace will look at disability different because of that person. Everybody within that person's family will look at it differently because of that. So it's not just that one person's life that's completely transformed. The ripples go out, infinitely.
well, it's the success story as well. Like with those ripples, like you being employed with a significant disability or any disability, then your friends, your community members that are part of maybe that disability community or others, they're like, you know what, if John or Jane or Joe can do it, I can do it too. And
Yeah,
then the next thing you know, it's like it's a domino effect. So like getting people with disabilities employed is it transforms society and it transforms lives. And but so
absolutely.
I love that that's what you're on a mission doing, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
And so with all of that, and I'm curious, what do you think accessibility means or inclusion means? Dive into either one of those terms.
I think, yeah, either of those really for me means that everybody, regardless of anything, any difference, whether it's race or sexual orientation or disability, has the same opportunity to contribute to society and to be accepted by society. So whether that's as a consumer or a family member or an employee, that actually, although we might do things in different ways, we still have the same opportunity to access those things and the choice, because not everybody wants to work, not everybody wants to vote, but we should all have the choice of whether, if we want to do those things, we should have the same choice as everyone else. So for me, inclusion means um, looking at people as people rather than putting us into, oh well, you can't do that because of X, Y, or Z. It should be, let's create a world that's accessible to everyone, regardless of their differences. And wouldn't that be a great world for everybody? I mean, whether you're different or have a protected characteristic or not, it would just be such a better world, wouldn't it, for everybody to get involved and contribute and feel valued, be amazing.
Absolutely, I'm for that world in so many ways. So thank you for describing it like that. And I would love to know if you had a message to businesses, what would that message be?
I think if it's around disability, it's, to put it in a sentence, it would be hiring disabled people is about talent, not about pity, because I think there's a lot of when we talk to employers, sometimes it's, oh, poor things, oh dear. And I'm saying, no, 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 it's not about that. It's not about charity. This is about talent. And at Evenbreak, we talk about our candidates, who are obviously all disabled, as premium candidates, because they are people who have the same diversity of skills and strengths and competencies as everybody else on the planet, but have additional talents that we bring with us. So we've had to learn how to navigate around barriers. We've had to learn creative problem solving skills, resilience, determination, creative thinking, all of those things which make us really good employees. So I think what I would say to a business is, if you think about employing disabled people as some kind of CSR or charitable initiative, you're missing out on actually the real benefit, which is hiring all of this talent which is out there. Skill shortages people are talking about, there aren't skill shortages, we're just not looking in the right places. So I would say to businesses, this is for you. This isn't about you doing something nice for a disabled person. This is about you attracting and retaining the talent that you need for your business to thrive.
That is absolutely brilliantly said. Could not have said it better. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
And so, if you could have a conversation with anybody in the world, who would it be and why?
I think it would be with, I mean, I know he's no longer with us. I think it would be with Nelson Mandela because, and I'm sure lots of people would say the same thing, because although his thing wasn't disability, I think his way of helping us all learn about inclusion and the human side of inclusion and what that means. I'd love to learn. I would have so much to learn from him, and I think that's the one person. Well, there are many, but one of the many people that I would love to, really sit down and say, right. So what needs to change? What do we need to do?
And how can we do it?
Yeah,
It's good to be forward thinking and be a visionary and kind of see kind of those different paths forward because we're all having the right conversations now about disability employment, about inclusion
yeah.
within the workforce, which I think those really do start, making a big difference. And it's in the last 5 years, I've seen more talk about diversity, equity, inclusion than I did for the last 20 years. So
And
I'm
also disabilities on that list now, because it used to be if you talked about diversity, oh yeah, we're doing this on race, and yeah, we're doing this on gender. But disability, not so much. And actually, I do think we're still low down on the list, but I think it's, slowly coming up on the agenda, which is fantastic. I think the pandemic, horrible though it was, has had some silver linings in that it's helped us look at different ways of working, which are equally successful. It's highlighted some of the inequalities. It's maybe made us think differently about the world of work and how it can, it doesn't have to be 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in an office, with a commute. It can be done lots of different ways, which are equally effective. And it's a shame it took a global pandemic for us to get to that stage. But hey, we're there now. So let's reap the benefits.
Let's reap the benefits and let's keep moving forward. So
Absolutely.
Jane, I just want to thank you so much for being on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. You've been a wonderful guest, and I
My
love the
absolute
conversation.
pleasure.
And just thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Jane.
Thank you.